Hi again everyone. So far with the logs we've looked at what happens if you're multiplying, if you're adding, you're subtracting, you're dividing. So what happens if you can write a number like an 8 as an index log? What effect does it have? What can we do with it? And at the start you think, why am I doing this? You can't see any purpose for it. That will come. A lot of things in math are what I call backwards. You don't see the purpose for it at first, like a lot of you still probably don't see the purpose of logarithms, but as we go further through the topic it starts to make sense. So, go back to the squish law and what we have here. I'm wanting to find out what the log of 8 is with a base of 2. It could be something. So if I squish the 2 out, I leave it as an 8 and I write it as 2, and where does the x go? It goes up to the top. So there is written in log form, and here it is written in index form. And then you could say that that's 2 cubed equals 2 to the x. And then that gives us, once the 2's are the same as a base, we've got the x equals 3 as the answer to the question. Simple part for me is all I say again is 2 to the what is 8. And it's pretty obvious that 2 by 2 by 2 is 8, so it's a 3. So what could I do instead of that? If I write that 8 as 2 cubed with a base of 2, interesting part, I've got 2 here and 2 there. What happens with this law is that 3 can simply go to the front. And when I write that as 3 of log 2 base 2, all I've done is taken the power of the 2, the index of the 2, or Americans will call it the exponent of the 2, and I've moved it to the front. Now, if it's correct, I should get an answer of 3. Now, hopefully a lot of you already know if I want the log of 2 with a base of 2, if I squash the x out, I have 2 equals 2 to the x, and x equals 1. So 2 to the what equals 2, and it's a 1. So that's a 1, and our answer is 3, which gives us the same answer as before. Of course, this doesn't prove it, it just demonstrates what we're doing. Let's have a look at this one here. So I could write 27 as 3 cubed. So 3 by 3 is 9, by 3 is 27. By the index law, I can write that 3 at the front as the log of 3 base 3 with a 3 out the front. Bit confusing having all the 3's. So that would be 3 times the log of 3, 3 to the what equals 3, it's 1. So that's just 3 times 1, which equals 3. Let's look at it when it gets a little bit harder. In the previous video I was talking about how you can write root 2 as 2 to the x. So if you want to go back and look 2 to the half, if you're going to go back and have a look at that, root 2 can be written as 2 to the half. So what can I do with a half? I can move it to the front and I have a half of log 2 base 2. Now I'm nagging about it, but the log of 2 base 2 is just 1, the log of 3 base 3 is 1, the log of 4 base 4 is 1. So that's just a half times a 1, which is a half. Next one, how can I write a 25? I can write a 25 as 5 squared, talking about the base of 5. If I write that as 5 squared and I move it from the denominator to the numerator, it becomes 5 to the minus 2. Also in previous videos, if you haven't seen them, go back and have a look at that. So 1 on 25 can be written as a 5 squared, but we've moved it from the bottom, the denominator, to the top, the numerator. And when you go from one to the other, top to the bottom or bottom to the top, the power changes its sign. The index changes its sign. So now we can write that with a minus 2 at the front with a log of 5 base 5. And we're back to this again, the log of 5 base 5, a log of 6 base 6, a log of 7 base 7, or 1. So that's minus 2 by 1, which is minus 2. Then what we do is it goes into algebra. Once you learn the concept with numbers, then we start looking at it as algebra. Why? Because we want to solve questions we don't know the answer for. And what do? We put in letters to be able to work out what it is by using the log laws and equations and algebra and everything else. So that 4 there can be written as 4 log of x base a. So all that happened was the 4 has moved to the front. So instead of having it up here, it's now written as a front. Was that of any advantage? No. We can go a little step further and talk about things like the log of 2x, so cubed with a base of 2. Now, watch out for the traps on this. People do all sorts of silly things. It's a 3 with a log of 2x with a base of 2. And we could go a lot further than that, But just remember, if all of this has a power on it, that power goes to the front there. And it's easy to get mucked up in what you're doing, but just remember it's this power here will go to the front there. In the next video I'll go through more complicated and questions that people particularly get wrong. Thanks for watching again.